little remains of the prestigious wine cellar from that golden era. By his restoration, Father Paul honors the past. The skitty must return to a daily life on par with its glorious history. The custodian of this historic and solitary treasure, Father Paul was ultimately joined by his own father and his brother. The first to arrive was his brother, who also became a monk before assisting his sibling. They were joined by their father, who became a monk upon uniting with his sons. It was through her love of God that their mother came to accept the situation. The father became Father Andreas. He welcomed the pilgrims who benefited from the legendary hospitality of the monks. Some of the pilgrims make the trip to visit the tomb of a particular monk. Here they are at home. Their room and board is a gift of the monastery. But the length of the visitor's stay on Mount Athos is determined by the religious authorities. Tirelessly and always with enthusiasm, Father Andreas keeps open the doors of the main church. Unlike the 12 other churches in the skitty, the main church miraculously escaped damage during the violent past. It quietly suffers the ravages of time. The iconostasis. This partition which separates the nave from the sanctuary reflects the Byzantine riches. At his feet is the reliquary of the Apostle Andreas, the brother of Peter. He was crucified head down in Greece. A part of his skull, preserved here, still commands deep respect and homage.
Να σας πω, τι προσκυνάτε. Όπως σας είπα έξω, είμαστε 5 μοναχοί. Συμπτωματικά είμαστε μηχανικοί. Εσύν ημάς, Κύριος. Εσύν ημάς, Κύριος. Ελέησον ημάς.
Further along is one of the numerous representations of the Virgin. This painting from the late 19th century tells the story of Father Andreas. It is so perfect that it captivates those who observe it, a sort of Mona Lisa of Mount Athos.
It's not only the eyes, it's the whole icon turns to the place you are going. Also the chair, not only the eyes of Mother and Christ. The history of this peninsula, accessible only by sea, remains a mystery. Legend has it that the Virgin, accompanied by John, rested here after weathering a violent storm. This peaceful place became a garden of the Virgin. The early Orthodox priests came here starting in the 7th century. The famous precursor was the hermit Αθωνας, who cleared the cave to join in communion with the Holy Virgin. Later, he established the foundations of the first monastery on Mount Athos. It was called the Grand Lavra. It is the year 963, a time when Mount Athos would assume enormous importance. This veritable Orthodox state within Greece is accessible only with a visa. Its government is seated at the capital city of Karies. It consists of 20 elected members who congregate twice a year to manage the spiritual community. 20 members represent the 20 monasteries of Athos. Each monastery remains autonomous. Regardless of whether it is Russian, Bulgarian, Greek, or Serbian, the monastery constitutes a territory upon which sit secondary monasteries called skitties. There are also farms called kelias and temples of total isolation called hermitages.
The St. Andreas Skitty is situated on the northeast part of the peninsula. Although resolutely focused on the future, Father Paul does value the monastery's grand past. It was an era when the monks balanced spirituality with modernism. For example, they were among the first to believe in the virtues of photography.
This used to be the monastery's photography studio. It was a very important place at the time because, for different events, the religious authorities from the Skitty, or even Athos, came here to be photographed. So that's why you can see this backdrop with representations of the Skitty, Mount Athos, the summit, and on top, the little cloud that is always there, like a hat on Mount Athos. More than 3,000 photos remain from the end of the 19th century and the beginning of this century. We once had almost 2,000 glass plates. Now less than half remain. It was a vibrant record of the social life of the epoch. Here is the workroom, or the darkroom. I should say that the first development laboratory at the Skitty dates back to 1865, so that at the time, it was the first darkroom in Greece.
Miraculously preserved, objects and packaging from that period bear the signature of the Lumière brothers.
These are the real beginnings of photography. Here inside we can see the darkroom. Off to the right inside behind the red stained glass, that's where they developed the photos. Here is a frame that they used to get a round image.
During his pilgrimage to Athos, a young Frenchman named Stéphane volunteered to take over the photo archives.
We have between 300 and 400 photos here at the Skitty. I digitalize them, scan them, and then put them onto a CD-ROM. That allows us first to file them and then have quick access, because the less we touch the glass plates, the better. I'm going to show you some now. This one, for example, has a charming detail. Here you can see that he's holding a photo in his hand. When it's enlarged, just to the side, it is he, only younger, before he became a priest during his military service in Russia. I'm going to show you a photo of a dead body, a priest. It's quite moving already. Then one can see when it's scanned and enlarged, certain areas have been touched up. White hairs added to the beard, the mustache, and the head. I think those are the kind of things you can't find with the naked eye. A historian is going to come to the Skitty. He's going to be able to give us some guidance to direct us a little bit.
In the meantime, Father Paul continues his mission. Restore the multitude of icons found in this open-air museum of Mount Athos. On this particular day, he is bringing an icon to the Evangelista Skitty. The icon was restored by students. Here, as in other monasteries, the tradition of sacred art from the Byzantine period is perpetuated. Whether they were painters or sculptors, the monks received no formal art training. It was through experience and the learned advice of their elders that the monks were able to produce the art of their ancestors. For Father Paul, the work is completed. The restoration of one icon can take several days, even several months, depending upon the state of disrepair. The restorer must always invest much time and energy to his work, for which he is rarely financially compensated.
For the most part, the monasteries don't have the means to finance repair work, which basically compels us to work for nothing. Which is to say, we do what is necessary to save the icons, and in exchange, the monasteries occasionally give us produce, sometimes wine or fruit. It depends.
To fully appreciate his visit, Father Paul lingers in one of the oldest chapels on Mount Athos. Here, the oldest and the most recent icons cohabit in harmony.
Do you see this iconostase? It's one of the oldest preserved on Mount Athos. The icons, which are framed, date from the end of the 16th century. The lower part is made of contemporary icons which were painted here on Mount Athos by the iconographers, by the monks. Now this iconostase is restored. These objects, the iconostases, these icons are living objects, which, with use, attain a spiritual function. The monks use them for prayer, and for that reason, we have to continue the tradition of creating the icons, using the same methods and using the same materials which have been used for centuries.
To recreate the techniques used by his predecessors, Father Maximus uses sophisticated technology. X-ray photography reveals the history of certain icons.
The examination of the works of art with X-rays help us to investigate and explore and discover other paint layers under the visible one, just like in this case of the particular icon. The visible image belongs to the 19th century, while the original one, the one that was discovered with the X-rays, belongs to the 16th century. In the visible image, we see the eyes of the Virgin Mary and the head of the Christ, while in the radiogram, the eyes are recorded of the Virgin Mary in this area and the head also. In the visible image, the eyes of the Virgin Mary is depicted, are recorded in this area. The same for the head of the Jesus of the visible image are recorded here, and the head of the original is recorded in this area very clearly.